Carabao Cup belonged to City, but today they are at the home of the current cup holders.
This is Wissa, and that's over. Gordon in, Wissa! Clawed away by Trafford.
Across the face of the goal and turned in by Antoine Semenyo.
He scored on his debut in the FA Cup. He's done it again in the Carabao Cup.
Guimaraes takes the corner, and City have a second, and Semenyo! He's done it again! It won't count. Well done, VAR.
To Nuri and swept home by Ryan Cherky. A second goal to take a stranglehold on this semi-final.
A tremendous advantage for the second leg.
Manchester City fans, welcome to the Etihad Stadium and welcome to Matchday Live. What a night we have upon us as Manchester City look to reach the League Cup final for the 10th time in their history. Only fourth team ever to do that, and a big chance, of course, if we're to win tonight, for us to secure our first bit of silverware of the season. Standing in our way, though, a Newcastle team who will be coming here to try and get a result, though they do come in 2-0 down after a 2-0 win at St James's Park from our boys in blue. And as you can see on your screens, this is the team Pep Guardiola has chosen to start tonight. He was great in that first leg, but he doesn't start this evening. We have James Trafford in goal, Mateus Nunes, Kusanov, Nathan Ake captains his side, alongside Nuri at left back. The two men on your screen there do start, Nico Riley and Reinders, alongside Gonzalez holding in midfield, and then moving to our forward three. What a start to his Manchester City career. Antoine Semenyo is one of the front three. Phil Foden, so happy to see he come back into the fold. We just saw him into the stadium there a little bit before. And completing our starting 11 tonight, Omar Marmoush is our preferred striker on the bench. Donnarumma, Ruben Diaz back in the team. Erling Haaland, Ryan Cherky, Rodrigo, Severn Nippon, Ryan McAdoo, Max Elaine and Rico Lewis completes the squad tonight. Welcome to Matchday Live, where as always we are live from inside the Etihad Stadium, and alongside me, as you can see, I've got none other than David James and Nicky Weaver. Bit of a goalkeepers union here this evening, so you can probably expect we're going to be talking about our goalkeepers a little bit later on. Gents, a very good evening. Nicky, we come into this 2-0 up from the first leg, but it isn't job done yet. Big 90 minutes ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, it was 2-0 up at the weekend at half-time, wasn't we? And that didn't end well. So, but listen, I think, you know, good performance up there in Newcastle. First goal in this tie is absolutely massive. If City gets it, then you would expect... I mean, you expect us to win anyway. If Newcastle get the first goal, then it's game on. You know, I just expect City to dominate possession like they normally would do. And we do create a lot of chances, and we've got to take those chances because, as we know, in recent weeks we've been punished when we haven't done so. So quietly confident, but there's a job to do out there.
And this is obviously pointing out the obvious, David, but given the result at the weekend, which I think, you know, we lose sight of a little bit, that it was still a draw at a difficult place to go. It was kind of the manner in which the draw happened. A game like this and a chance to get to Wembley, and it is a final, as I say there as well, we'd be only the fourth team to get to 10 finals, is a huge confidence booster for the team and a chance to get back on track, so to speak.
Yeah, I think from the weekend, I mean, of course, like Nicky said, an angle where you could be very disappointed. However, you also look at Tottenham, who were in a good position after what they did in Europe, so Tottenham were expected to be a better side. So there's a bit where the point is good. I mean, the gap to Arsenal is still achievable.
Yeah.
Obviously, with City playing Arsenal in not too distant future.
Yeah, here at the Etihad.
They have control. Yeah, they have control over at least 3 points in that battle. Tonight, though, I think what we have is obviously a different starting lineup here. An opportunity for players to really show what they need to do to get City to the final. They know who the opposition are. Mm-hmm. There could be a chance there to give Arsenal a double blow. That's it.
And speaking of chances of players to, you know, kind of assert themselves and show what they can do. One man who I mentioned at the start, I'm always just so happy to see in the starting 11, Phil Foden. Pep's been speaking about him a little bit in his pre-match conference. You know, touching upon that maybe he's had a slight little dip, but step by step he'll be back. He said he's my son, he's our son. Of course, you're going to have ups and downs. His qualities never question. But maybe the little dip of form, hopefully tonight he can show us what made of. He could be key tonight, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Foden, his standards are so high. When he just dips slightly below them, obviously it gets, magnified. He started off the season great. And yeah, he's just, like Pep said in his press conference, a slight dip in form. We all know how super talented he is. He is the best player, I think, at running with the ball with his head up. He just looks and he's scanning all the time. When he's in his receiving position, he's always scanning. He's just so aware of what's around him. And he's a super talented player, and we all want him back to his best, which I'm sure we will be, before we know it.
Absolutely. Now, some Manchester City fans might be wondering, okay, Semenyo starts, January signing, Mark Gahey doesn't start. Mark Gahey is ineligible because we weren't able to register him before this game. I think that will mean as well that he can't start in the final, but are you happy with those back four? I mean, that feels very, very solid. Kusanov, Ake obviously captains the side. Ait-Nouri as well comes into the fold. He's back from the African Cup of Nations. And Nunes, who we know has had an unbelievable season at right back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a starting City lineup that you can't be happy with in one way or another. Obviously with Trafford starting as well.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting because his style of play is different to Donnarumma. We can talk about that later, of course, but with that back four there, again, when City conceding chances, it wasn't just the 2 goals, was it, against Tottenham? Donnarumma's had to make a few saves. This back four has an opportunity to say, hang on, we'll protect James. If they protect James to the best of their abilities, then Newcastle don't score. Yeah. City can start booking their trains if they're working.
Yeah, I think as well, to touch on what J-Mo was saying, I think the pace of Kusanov as well. He's the one defender we've got who's the quickest defender in the whole squad.
Yeah.
And he can make those recovery runs and get either himself or his teammates out of a sticky situation. So, really big fan of his.
Interesting trio. Sorry, I'm just
no. Say what you see.
Yeah, the interesting trio of English goalkeepers isn't it?
John Ruddy as well. Legend. With Kusanov as well, obviously you're going to have that awareness, but Gay's been brought in. We've got Ruben Diaz back in the squad, coming back from an injury. I think he was back in training this week. So I guess as well, is it another final opportunity? And I think he was really has shown it, but just to go, look, give Pep something to think about even when Ruben Diaz is back, Nicky.
Yeah, I mean, listen, John Stones obviously has his injury problems, doesn't he? And Nathan Ake's not getting any younger, and there's been question marks over his future. But like J-Mo said, I think whoever they pick is a strong back four. Obviously, look at Ait-Nouri there as well. I've not mentioned him. He's not had I was a huge fan of him at Wolves. He's not really got going yet in a City shirt, but I'm sure he will because he's a hugely talented player. But yeah, listen, and obviously Nunes has done great there at right back. So it's possibly a back five that's never played before together, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But listen, they'll have worked on it in training. They know each other's games inside out, and let's hope we can keep the Newcastle forward line quiet.
Just on that, obviously we've got Nico O'Reilly in there, who then will be given even more licence to move midfield. When we saw in the Tottenham game, him in that central midfield area alongside Rodri, Reinders when he came on, how much did you enjoy seeing him in there, which is a position he's more familiar with from his academy days? I thought he gave great energy in the Tottenham game in there.
Yeah, I think what he's done this season, I mean, we keep saying it every time on the show, I mean, it's just remarkable. First of all, his age, that he is that good, but he is that good as well. And it doesn't seem to matter what position you put him in.
No.
He can cope with it. And I think this is the interesting thing, because we're obviously, with a 2-0 lead tonight, protect that lead, you go through to the final. Win the game, then it's a bonus, but also as a confidence booster. With the result midweek in the Champions League, then obviously there was, last week in the Champions League, we don't have to worry about playoffs, which Newcastle have to. There's so much for City to be playing for.
Yes.
That this is not just about tonight's game. I know, focus one game at a time, people will say that, but these players, Nico included, will be saying, hang on a minute, there's a lot of things to go for this season, and I want to be part of that.
Well, I think Pep's even spoke about that, and again, I guess maybe the fans lose sight of it because what we want to see is maybe where City were at 3-4 years ago, but we've been a team in transition. But we come to the end of January and February now. You're still in all 4 competitions. You're only 6 actually off Arsenal. As you say, you've missed out that round in the Champions League. You'd ask any City fan at the start of the season, you'd have bit the hand off to be that. And we've kind of lost a little bit of perspective on that.
I think because, winning the 4 Premier Leagues in the row and the treble and the standards they set were so high, and Pep said it afterwards, you can't just keep doing it.
No.
The last season was a transitional one, as is this as well. So to be still fighting strong on all 4 fronts, the gap's not too big, like J-Mo said earlier, well placed in Champions League, obviously a winnable game in the FA Cup coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, I think you know, because the standards have been so high, if we're not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points in front of everyone, there's, you know, a bit of doom and gloom almost about it. You're like, well, we've got loads to play for, and it could still be a really, really successful season.
Well, I'm not going to say City are favourites to win any quadruples at the moment, but everyone is starting to talk about Arsenal's potential quadruple based on 6 points and the fact they're in the final first.
Yes.
So City go through in the final today, then the only real difference between them is that 6 points with them to play each other. And City are used to being in this position and being successful from this position. Not for the quadruple because it hasn't been done, but the point is that when it comes to the, I don't want to use his term, but when people start getting a little bit squeaky.
I was going to just say before Jabo said there, City have won the league from loads of different positions. Arsenal haven't.
Yes.
So City have won it, been 5, 6 points clear. They've won it from being 5 or 6 points behind.
Yes.
They've got there, they've done it before, the manager's done it multiple times, so they've all done it before. Arsenal haven't done it, so there's lots and lots to play for, and there'll be lots of twists and turns.
There will be loads more to come. Hopefully none tonight, so we make sure we get to the final. The other man I wanted to mention, because I always love seeing him start, kind of do want to see more of him. I know he was at the African Cup of Nations. Marmoush, we assume, will be down the middle. You never know if it'll be a Foden false nine, but Pepper spoke about how he likes Marmoush down the middle. What does he give us going forward that's different to Erling Haaland, and how do you think he'll get at the Newcastle defence tonight?
Well, I was going to touch on Phil Foden in this, because with Marmoush and not Erling Haaland, I mean, we kind of expect Erling to do certain things, and he's been highly successful at doing that in his Man City time. Marmoush is a lot more fluid. We mentioned it when he first signed. I mean, the guy can score from distance. Not that he gets the opportunities or takes those opportunities that often, but I just think Phil Foden will have, with Semenyo as well, it's a lot more freedom to find Marmoush into positions where I think his strengths, slightly different to Erling Haaland's, should come to the fore. And again, because of what we've just said for the last 5 minutes, tonight is a great opportunity for all these players just to go, come on, let's show you what we've got.
Well, interestingly, just bringing you some comments from Pep's pre-match interview this evening. He said the best way to defend a lead is to score more goals, which shows the intention to, and I guess that's an idea of the game plan tonight, especially with the personnel. We're going to be going for it, Nicky.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't sit on your laurels, can you, and think, well, if we just draw the game up, you've got to go and win. We've spoke about the first goal being massively important. If City gets it, then you expect them to go on and maybe get a couple more. Newcastle are still a dangerous team. They've probably been better away from home this year than they have been at home.
Yes.
So the tie's far from over. But, you know, the opening 20 minutes will tell us how the game's going to sort of pan out. But, yeah, listen, you're just looking at the faces on the screen there. There's more than enough in that team to beat Newcastle, who were, a little bit inconsistent.
Backing that up there, actually, Newcastle have only won 2 of their last 11 away games in the Premier League this season. So, something for confidence for City there. Something probably in the back of Newcastle's minds as well.
Well, I was at the last Newcastle away game at Anfield. The one thing, Eddie was the former manager of mine at Bournemouth, and I kind of know a little bit of how Eddie works, and I'm not sure if the Liverpool starting lineup was with an eye on tonight.
Yeah.
Again, when you look at it and go, oh, Man City winning 2-0, it's a done deal. Eddie will be thinking, I'm not going to go up to Manchester and roll over. So he's got a better chance of winning silverware through the Carabao Cup, you would argue, than he has of winning the Premier League, of course. So don't be surprised. I haven't seen the lineup yet for Newcastle, but don't be surprised there's going to be a few changes there. They will not be easy. Defensively, they can be extremely frustrating. With the likes of Gordon, Walter Maida, Wiese if he's involved. I mean, they've got players that can cause problems, but it's really up to City to control that. What I did see was a lot of early chances for Newcastle against Liverpool, and then all of a sudden Liverpool got in a bit of a groove and pretty much the game was done.
I mean, me saying this means it's probably going to win tonight, but also on top of the, struggling away from home, Newcastle haven't scored at the Etihad in 7 years, which is unbelievable. That's quite an unbelievable
They've only won here once, haven't they?
My
Newcastle friend told me.
Really?
one in 18.
Yeah. So that must be. I mean, does that linger in a player's mind? Or
listen, they know it's going to be tough coming here. Every time anyone comes to the Etihad, it's a tough game. Yeah. So they know that. But I don't think players will read too much for people like us to talk about that. I don't think they'll read every game's individual. Every game's from a fresh slate, if you like. So yeah, they'll have a game plan.
Yeah.
And they'll be quietly confident. They've got to settle the crowd down. And what you don't want to do as an away team coming here, you can't let City get into their rhythm. because once they get into the rhythm, they can take the game away from you.
Yes.
In a heartbeat, and it can be 1, 2, 3. Before we've seen it umpteen times. So for Newcastle, it's about staying in the game as long as they can, with still having that attacking threat as well. And listen, Eddie Howe's a wily old fox, has been in the game a long, long time now, and he's pulled some massive results out for Newcastle over the years. So yeah, it's far from over, but like I said, we were quietly confident it's going to go City's way, but there's a big job to do first.
They do indeed. Well, let's see who Eddie Howe has chosen to start tonight to bring us the Newcastle team news and give us their thoughts as well. Of course, the ever-present Alistair Mann, who's on commentary this evening. He'll be in the stadium alongside Andy Morris.
Yeah, welcome to Pitchside, where I'm joined by my co-commentator, the former City captain, Andy Morris. And just before we get on to tonight and the lineup, all the City fans I've been talking to, we're all talking about the second half against Spurs. And I know there was an awful lot of controversy about the goal and all that kind of thing, but it did lose our way. What happened in that second half?
Well, Ali, to simplify, really, they come out with a freedom and they started on the front foot. We came out and didn't start, and we were sloppy. And there's been games this season where me and you have worked together, and there's been a little bit of apathy at the start of the second half. And I've thought very often, what messages are being said, because they must be mindful of it, of the way we have started second half and the goals we've conceded, a huge amount to the first half and second halves. And it's a mindset, and that's got to improve and be better. Tottenham had nothing to lose. It's not a great position to be in 2-0 down, but as a footballer, you've got freedom. The game's lost, basically, so you can go out and express yourself. You can get into tight areas. You can ask for the ball under pressure. You can express yourself, and with no fear of your mistake costing the game, because you're already 2-0 down. So a lot of things I definitely need to see a change of mentality at the beginning of second halves.
Let's turn to tonight. What do you make of the 11 that's been selected?
I like the 11, Ali, and when does a team come here and need to win by 3 goals? It's got all the makings of a expansive, open, end-to-end game full of goals. Where it pans out that way, I don't know. Because when will Manchester City ever need to sit on a 2-0 and invite the opposition in and play on the counter-attack? Never under Pep Guardiola. So it's going to be open, there's going to be lots of chances, both teams to score, I would imagine, and let's hope it's a 5-4 victory, so we're fully entertained for the evening.
Well, let's have a look at the Newcastle team that's been named to try and get that 2-goal deficit back. Aaron Ramsdale, Kieran Trippier, Lewis Hall, Sven Botman, Sandro Tonali, Anthony Gordon, Malik Thiaw, Nick Voltemade, Joe Willock, Dan Burn and Jacob Ramsey. And when I look across the squad that Newcastle have got, there is no Bruno Guimaraes, which is a massive loss. And actually, Andy, statistically,
you love a stat, Ali.
I do love a stat, but this one is baffling to me, because I like the way Newcastle play and I like Eddie Howe. And 4 years and 1 month he's been a Newcastle player, Bruno Guimaraes. Whenever he's missed a game, they haven't been able to win. They've never won a game that he's been absent from. And he's not playing tonight.
It's a staggering stat. And
what's that about?
Yeah, I know, and it's probably speaks volumes of the impact that he has. And I like him, but that stat says he's better than probably I think he is, because that's remarkable. Just the impact he actually has on his team, the energy he creates. He's a good player, we know that. But, there's a big ask for them tonight coming here, and, there's changes in the team, there's a freshness, and I'm really positive for City tonight.
You were talking about how this game might pan out and the chances that might be created. If you're Eddie Howe, you're 2-0 down, you're away from home, you're not expected to get through. Does that give them the same freedom that Spurs had on Sunday?
Yeah, kind of, Ali. It's one that they'll want to stay in. I think if it gets to half-time at 0-0, I think they'll be delighted. I think that gives them then a chance to really be expansive and open in the second half, and nothing to lose and play with freedom. And listen, when you get at our back line, we can be a little bit exposed at times, because we will play on the front foot, we will be on the halfway line, we will keep them camped in. That creates space behind, and Veltman's not going to run away from us, but there is pace and there is quality in that team.
And the odd thing about today, because of the new format of the Champions League, it's our first 2-legged tie of the year. What kind of mentality does that create, a 2-legged game?
Well, it creates a great mentality when you're 2-0 up and then you're coming back home. It's a brilliant position to be in. Couldn't be any better for City, and one that they should relish tonight and play with a freedom. And if they play with a freedom and they're ruthless, we will create a lot of chances. If we take them chances, it'll be a tough night for Newcastle.
The thoughts there of Andy Morrison. Let's go back to the studio and let's hear from the Goalkeepers Union alongside you.
Alistair Mann does love a stat, but not as My mate David James loves this start. That will forever be your title, Mr. David James. It's David James and Nicky with me in the studio. Eddie Howe there, arriving at the Etihad Stadium. Looking at that Newcastle team, you look like, was it four changes or 3 changes from the week?
3 changes.
From the weekend game. And a back 5, it looks like.
It looks like a back 5, yeah. We've got the 4 defenders from the weekend with Botman in there as well.
Okay.
So I say 5-3, 3-5. I'm trying to think who would play possibly as a holding midfielder, but I think the key omission is Guimaraes, Bruno.
Yeah.
Their record without Bruno is quite terrible.
Yeah.
I know he was on the bench for the Champions League game the other week, midweek. Didn't make it to the Liverpool game, not here today, so yeah.
It's similar, I mean, you can kind of think the similarities to when we lose Rodri or Rodri wouldn't play because he's so key. How do you as a squad, when you're such a wherever player, has such a big impact to what you do on the pitch and also results to try and, counter it? Because City have experienced that.
Absolutely, it is a huge loss for them because he's such a good player, and like Jamo said, the stats are unbelievable when he doesn't play. But listen, Eddie, like we said, will have a game plan. Harvey Barnes well on the bench, who's been in great form of late, so they have got changes they can make. They've got some dangerous players. There'll be players who are trying to prove a point. But yeah, it'll be a massive miss for him, and the fans love him as well. He's been linked with his club over the past few years as well. So yeah, he's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League outside the sort of biggest 3 or 4 clubs, I suppose. So yeah, he's going to be a huge miss for them. But like I said, they'll have confidence whoever's taking his place.
It seems they've had a slight dip in form recently, Newcastle. Can you put your finger on why? Is part of it the busy fixture list? Has it been anything that's kind of they've struggled to do a little bit, David?
Well, I mean, given what we just said, it might be because Bruno's been missing, but
that's one thing. Yeah,
I think what's interesting this season, if we sort of extend it to a lot of clubs, what Newcastle's success from last season, winning a trophy, obviously this trophy, there's an expectation level, and I think for Eddie to get that, or Newcastle to have that success last season, they can only equal it by winning the Carabao Cup. Now they're in the Champions League, they're in. Obviously, they were earlier on in the season. They were sort of in contention for the Champions League places in the Premier League. Not that that's out their reach at the moment, and it's kind of trying to balance all this out. And as I said, last season in particular, Eddie had a game plan against Liverpool where he played him in the league before the Carabao Cup final. Played a different team, different system. Caught Liverpool on the hop and managed to win the trophy. So this season, I think there's a lot of protection and almost like prioritising. Yeah. I think the weekend game against Liverpool, it seems like the priority was here.
Yeah.
Having said that, there's also Champions League with the draw and and having to have the playoff. But against Carabao, seeing what they did, I keep mentioning Liverpool, but Liverpool just played them and beat them 6-0. So there's a bit where you'd expect them over 2 legs to beat Carabao. So the focus can be more on today. I think the Bruno miss is the big thing for him, and it's how they work around that. But as I say, with expectation not quite being where they want to be but hoping to be, then that can erode confidence sometimes.
But it's almost like a classic cup team, aren't they? Because they can be really, on the day they can beat anybody.
Yes.
But yet their inconsistencies have made them sort of mediocre in the Premier League. So, they're a dangerous outfit, that's for sure.
And a 2-0 loss at home to City in the first leg would have been devastating.
Yeah.
That would have been the...
That late goal.
Yeah.
Really changed from Turkey, wasn't it?
Yes, that felt like a game changer. Echoing what you said there again as well. In the last 4 seasons, they've reached quarterfinals of this competition, semi-finals once, and then the final twice. So that kind of it does suit their squad. Speaking of their team as well, Eddie Howe and Dan Burn have said they need a fast start and a quick goal to get back in the game, probably to counter that Cherki goal. City, I guess, have to be aware of that it doesn't end up in a basketball game, because that's maybe where we've been a little bit susceptible when it's been open.
We sort of, from 2, 3, 4 years ago when we had controlling games, and we don't necessarily have that control anymore. For whatever, whether that's Rodri not been fully fit or been missing a lot last season, and we don't have that. 4 years ago, 2-0 up at Tottenham, it's done.
Yes.
You probably go on to win 3 or 4. At the minute, we've got a little bit of a soft underbelly, and we are vulnerable, particularly to pace on the counter attack. So it's one that we've got to. I know he wants to score more goals than the opposition, and I'm sure JMO thinks the same. They almost the prize of a clean sheet has sort of like drifted
Clean
away from
sheet?
football.
What's a
now.
clean sheet?
No one's into. They just want to score more goals,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
great for the neutral and when you're watching games on TV and stuff. But tonight, City get a clean sheet. They're at Wembley.
That's it. That's a great point. And off that as well, is there a part of that as well? Going what we said at the start of the show, we are a team in transition still. I think Pep even said as well, we're a young team. You know, a lot of those players that were so used to City controlling the games, if you think bar maybe a Rodri and Bernardo Silva and Ruben Diaz, a lot of these, you know, Ake was in there, but we've got a younger team that are still learning how City go about and do control a game when they are 2-0 up.
Yeah, I mean the interesting term or the term transitioning to what is the question, because if this is transition to something that we don't recognise at the moment, then it might take a little bit longer.
Yes.
If you're getting new players to transition to what Pep used to have before, then it possibly doesn't look anything like that, and it's kind of, that might still be far away. So Pep knows where he wants to be at, and I'm sure the players will be instructed on how to get there. It's just where they finish that transition period and what they'll look like then. And the young player bit, I agree with you, there's a lot of young players, but one thing City have been very good at is having young players play big roles. And I think that the slight difference possibly with Nico Riley compared to, say, Foden, is where Foden was sort of in and out, Nico's kind of in.
Yeah, he's become a dead sir.
Yeah,
You know,
that's the difference. The responsibility of the youngsters, I think, is a little bit greater this season possibly than a few seasons ago.
I think in the Champions League we've been fielding one of the youngest teams in the Champions League ever. I think on average it's been a team of 25 and under, 7 young players, and that's in the. Hello, Manchester. But that also goes to show, and also that's huge. Not just you're not doing it in the League Cup, you're doing it on the biggest stage and the hardest stage.
Yeah, well, it's a young man's game, isn't it? It's a running game.
Yeah.
You talk about Nico O'Reilly, he's done so well because of his physical profile. You know, he's been at left back, he's been up and down, plays in the middle of the number, he's up and down. So it's all about running and recovering, and young players can do it better, and they hang on every single word the manager says. Older players, listen, some of the older players have been brilliant for Pep, you know, bringing like Gundogan back and that, you know, and De Bruyne got older, still could, you know, change games. But it's a young squad, they're learning quickly off the players the older players that are still in, the ones that have recently departed. So yeah, it's a young team, but like I said, it's a running game, and you know, they're learning quick.
They are indeed, and players like Nathan Ake will be key to bringing that experience and showing in the ropes. We can get his thoughts now. Actually, he was speaking to us and was giving us his thoughts of course, the League Cup and potentially reaching another final.
We come so far. I think the Newcastle game really was a really good one. Got away there with 2-0 win. It's not easy. So yeah, to be able to go to the final, to Wembley again, I think is a great opportunity. So we have to take that.
Obviously, if we get to Wembley, we have the chance to win a trophy. Is it a boost to win a trophy that early in the season in terms of confidence for the rest of the season and our other goals?
I think so. It can be a boost. Anyway, to win a trophy is always nice. Especially at Wembley, it will be nice to get there hopefully, and yeah, to win a trophy, as you say, can, you know, push on and go on for the title race and the Champions League as well.
And finally, overall, we're still in 4 competitions. How much do you enjoy this part of the season after Christmas, when it is getting down to real important games?
Yeah, it's always good, you know. The last, as long as I've been here, actually, you know, the last part of the season is always the most exciting. Many things can happen, many ways it can go, and you know, the only thing we can do is keep pushing and see where we end up. But we're gonna go for everything for sure.
How key could this be when we talk about, we've been, you know, a little bit up and down in momentum, just off what Nathan was saying there. You get to the final, if we get past, you know, Newcastle tonight, you beat Arsenal in the final, surely that could be a huge springboard for the rest of the season in all those other competitions we're in.
Yeah, well, I'm not putting City as a quadruple favourite, so I'm not doing that. But you beat Arsenal, then Arsenal first of all win this game. Right, let's get above ourselves.
Yeah.
But win this game. You beat Arsenal in the final. That means Arsenal can't get the quadruple. It means they can focus on winning what they probably really want to win, which is the Premier League. And there's always this kind of trade-off of success that allows, in this context, other teams to really sharpen their focus.
Yes.
Not that City winning that wouldn't stop them from going from it, but you know, the emotional imbalance. We've just talked about the young players. Some of these players haven't won the trophies.
Yeah.
A lot of these players haven't won trophies. So all of the dealing that Pep would have to do with players actually being successful, everyone thinks is great, but sometimes that can make them little monsters, and you have to contain that. So, I mean, that's the bit where you go one game at a time. This one now, win this, get to the final at Wembley, win that, and then go on to the next one. But as supporters and fans, we can...
The feeling of actually doing it and winning it must be huge. I mean, in whatever capacity, whether it's like winning a league and getting the promotion, it's a huge thing that you then take with you.
And I think what's good about the league, because the final's quite early, I think it's sort of mid to the end of Feb, it's one ticked off early, isn't it? So you've got one in the bank.
Yes.
That's done and dusted. You've got that in the cabinet.
You've got some silverware.
Yeah, and then can we make it 2 or 3 or whatever it may be. But again, it's a trip to Wembley.
Yeah.
And I know City have been there lots over the years, but it's still very, very special.
Yes,
It'll be a lot of fans' first trip to Wembley, and it might be some of the last trip. So it's going to Wembley for any team. It's still a huge, huge occasion.
Yeah.
We saw what Newcastle did last year. The open top bus around Newcastle. Eddie Howe was being loaded around because they won the League Cup.
Yeah.
So it just shows, although it's less on your priorities, at this point it's high on your priorities because it's the next game.
Yes.
And we're in a semi-final and it's within touching distance.
Yeah, it is just there. Now, as we know, we've just come to the end of January. Unusually for City, last season and this season, we have actually been relatively busy. Last season, of course, we were particularly bringing in the likes of Marmoush and Kusanov, just to name a few. Very much needed. We've had a couple come in this January transfer window as well. So I want to run you through our business, which has got our ins and outs. Obviously, the 2 big ones. One of them starts tonight. Semenyo signing from Bournemouth. Then we saw Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace. A name who might be familiar with some City fans and some not others. He's in the squad tonight. Severn Nippon. We sent him out signed him in the summer. Was on loan at Middlesbrough. We've now brought him back in for the back half of the season. You'll be able to spot him somewhere in fact, just behind Rodri. There he is. He's just come in there. Young Norwegian wonder kid, one might say. And of course, Max Elaine, who we brought him back on loan from Watford. Then our outs, obviously Oscar Bob, who we wish the best, went to Fulham. Stefan Ortega went to Nottingham Forest. Echeverri, of course, a player that we know made an appearance in the final in the FA Cup as well. He was on loan over at Leverkusen, has now switched to Girona, one of the clubs with the CFG. Then we had Calvin Phillips. He's gone out on loan to Sheffield United. Divine Mukasa has made a few appearances in this competition. He will see out the rest of the season at Leicester. Fooney for Manchester City, young 17-year-old centre-half left-back, has gone to Watford. So you'd think maybe a replacement there for Elaine. And Jaden Heskey to a club that you'll know, Mr. Weaver, to Sheffield Wednesday. Maybe beginning with some of the outs there, obviously. Oscar Bob, Ortega, we've kind of touched upon. Oscar LeBob, personal favourite. But I wanted to, just looking at our academy graduates that have kind of been going out on loan. Mukasa obviously to Leicester, Fooney to Watford and Jaden Heskey. Huge opportunity for these boys to do the trades at these big clubs.
Playing in under-21s football for the SE is great, but it's not the same as, where managers' jobs are on the line. You've got the pressure of the fans, big stadiums, and the Championship's a great place for them to learn their trade. If they go there and do well, come back here in the summer and then impress Pep in pre-season, because he'll take a big squad away, then that's an opportunity for them. So they're always playing for something, and it's just great for young players to go out and get experience. And even if they don't quite good enough for the level here, the value will go up, and it's a business at the end of the day. And what City do really well is with the young players is they keep obviously the ones that they want to keep. You look at Oscar Bob, couldn't quite. The injury hampered him a couple of years ago, and he couldn't quite get his breakthrough into that first team, and he probably wouldn't if he stayed here, but they get great money for him.
Yes.
And they get a buyback, so it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it is indeed. I think we did a great bit on the show where we looked at Manchester City Academy graduates that are playing all around the Premier League, and I'm sure there'll be so many more in the Championship and below. Former one captains Newcastle tonight, Kieran Trippier. Looking at their January transfer business, how do you rate it, David? Their January window this year, obviously bringing in Gay, Semenyo, but obviously getting the lads out.
You were talking about Kieran Trippier, and I was thinking I haven't done my homework on Newcastle's transfer list. Needed players, and again as we talked about before, the position in the league. As much as Arsenal fans will be sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, we're going to win the league," which a few of my friends have been texting me about, bringing these reinforcements in means that the second half of the season, the end half of the season, is going to be done with force, ability, and hopefully with wins. The position in the league could be achieved when we've got Gay here. He looks so happy, doesn't he?
I think as well, with the signing, the 2 signings we talk about, they're ready-made Premier League players. There's no settling-in period. Semenyo scores for Tottenham, against Tottenham for Bournemouth.
And then comes here and starts scoring.
Yeah, his last kick for Bournemouth, and then again, and Marguerite goes straight out of the Palace team, straight into our team.
Yeah.
So they've not got any settling period. They know the league, they know it inside out. They're fit, they're ready to go. They're both at great ages. What City do great in January is a lot of the time, obviously, get Gay for a knockdown price. Semenyo's a buyout clause, so they don't get into a bidding war.
Yes.
And City, there's only really Jack Grealish where you think they've gone over and above and 100 million because he's English and and all that. So City really, really well. They never get into a bidding war. And in the summer that can happen, but in January, if there's a buyout clause, once you've activated the clause, they all want to come.
And I think as well, again, we're going to go back to that word transition. It seems to be the word and the theme of the show this evening. But I look at that window and then. Even last window, do you know what I mean? And we got Marmoush starting today. We're forgetting that these players, they've only really been here for a year and not had like a full season over. Nico Gonzalez, Kusanov.
But I think that this is a difference possibly between this window and last year, January, was the players came in and they weren't expected to go in there and arguably see out the rest of the season as a first team player.
Yeah.
Guéhi and Semenyo are there to do their stuff straight away.
Yeah.
And again, it's reinforcements coming in for City to have a real push for the 4 competitions which they are still competing in. So,
and what great moves for the 2 players themselves individually as well. They've been at Premier League clubs, sort of stable Premier League clubs, but not top Premier League clubs. So to get a move at that stage of the career, when they sort of flying and the trajectory is going like that, to come to City, still fighting on all 4.
Well, and I think Semenyo, and there he is on the screen, almost the greatest example of that, because I think only 4 seasons ago he was on loan at a League 2 club.
Are they the biggest calves in the Carabao Cup, though?
What, Semenyo's
calves?
I think he could be top of the table for that one. I did just want to give a special mention just to Calvin Phillips, because we know he's, struggled with injuries, particularly here as well, and not a chance to get going. It cannot be spoken. He can't be spoken highly enough about how he's had the right energy when maybe things have gone against him. Never complained. You ever hear nothing in the media? And I think he still brings a great energy and presence in the change room. He's an England international, but really exciting. Hope he gets his chance and his career back on track.
It's almost sad to see what's happened to him, because it was so pivotal for obviously Leeds and England as well.
For sure.
Him and Declan Rice, when they got to the final of the Euros, unbelievable. He was almost first name on the team sheet, and then he got his big move here, and for whatever reason it's just not quite worked out for him, and it's the loan spells haven't been great so far for him at Ipswich and West Ham, I think it was. So hopefully he goes Sheffield United and it's the ground running, because he's sort of, he needs to, because I think he's 30 now. And it'd be nice for him to have a good, I'm not saying he's near the end of his career, but a good last 4 or 5 or 6 years of his career, rather than just sort of dwindle into obscurity, because by all accounts he's a great lad, trains well, and he is a quality player.
Yeah, England international.
Do you really mean that with your Sheffield Wednesday heart? Do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Sheffield United aren't going to go up this year, so he can do as well as he wants for them. It'd be nice for the lad himself. It'd be nice for him to get back to winning ways.
Have you had a chance to see much, of course, of? I mean, he's only just gone. Jaden Heskey, I think, and we've got someone else. There's another one of our young lads as well there as well. Is it? No, Joan and Darley,
Yeah, Darley, he went on deadline day, didn't he?
Yes.
But yeah, Heskey's done well in a really difficult situation at Sheffield Wednesday, and but he's playing at Championship level in a really, really difficult situation. So wherever he goes in his career, he'll probably be never faced with this situation again. I think 30 points from safety or something, because all the point deductions and stuff, and they're playing young players there, so he's got a lot of responsibility. He's gone straight in the team and he's done well.
Just going back to the point you mentioned when we first started around this, and Max Elaine almost was a great example of what he said. Go there, ply your trade, do well. City will call you back when they need you, which is what happened to Max, straight into the fold. The Championship style of football, how much can it give the likes of these players? Even like a Divine Mukasa, who's, we've seen him start here. He's had a good few appearances. I think he's had maybe 1 or 2 goals, but it's going to be incomparable to maybe starting week in and week out for Leicester. It can be, it can be.
There's no substitute for playing first team football, and whatever level it is, there's a consequence. If you're playing in the academy or the under 21s and you lose a game, no one wants to lose a game, but there's no consequence. Like if you lose a game in the Championship and you lose 3 games, the manager might get sacked. So there's huge consequences. There's people's livelihoods on the line. You're playing in front of packed stadiums. I think it's like the 5th best league in Europe, isn't it? The Championship. So obviously they can keep a close eye on him. So it's a great experience for them. And Championship's such a high level now. Listen, it's still a long way from the Premier League, but if you can go there, it's a stepping stone to get into the first team here. And as we said, if you do well this year, come back in the summer, pre-seasons. We've seen Newcastle rally, didn't we? Do really, really well in pre-season.
Yeah.
Not this pre-season, gone one before.
Yeah.
So sometimes pre-season can change a manager's mind. Yeah.
I think the biggest difficulty, and I've spoken to young lads before the transfer window and their potential pathways, is going to a club where you're not going to do anything that your mother club does. And then you end up playing the games, and there's positives about playing in front of crowds, consequences and all that stuff. But if you're playing a style of football, which is fundamentally different to your mother club, then arguably you're moving yourself further away from the club that you want to be at. But it all depends on what pathway they want to take. I mean, I agree with Nicky, especially with the club with so many players. Get out there, play. If you're doing well enough and it suits your City as your mother club, then pre-season will be a great opportunity. If it doesn't, you get yourself the opportunity of having such a good upbringing that you'll move on with more credits. Do you know what I mean?
Well, an example of the style of play is Echeverri, of course, went to Bayer Leverkusen, wasn't getting the minutes as much as City wanted, but he's gone to Girona, where that very much does emulate City style of play. And we've got Vita Reese there as well, who we signed last January. So that's a bit more in keeping with when he comes back, he'll know the system. So it'll be interesting to see how they all play out. Now, if you want to get involved on a poll, we do this on some of our shows. You can do. We want to ask you how many goals you think are going to be scored tonight. It's very simple. Get on YouTube, you can carry on watching and cast your vote on our poll. I'll be revealing the results of that in a little bit. We're now going to hear from a former teammate of both of yours. Earlier today we sat down with a man who was involved with a Manchester City game that will forever live long in our history and in our memories, especially if you watched it like me, even as a kid. It was an infamous 4-3 win against Tottenham after going 3-0 down. It is the anniversary of that game today, 22 years to the day since that game. Wow. And we can now hear from someone who was involved in that game, former teammate of the boys, Mr. John Macken.
Yeah, welcome to Pitch Side, where I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the former City striker, John Macken. John, you're most welcome to the show this evening. Listen, I don't always want to talk about the game against Spurs, but it's 22 years to the day of the most incredible FA Cup tie I've seen. What are your recollections? Still as vivid?
Not quite, no, but listen, it's one of them memorable games that you want to be involved in, you want to be part of, and luckily enough I was, and got the winner. But it's like I say, it's just it's the magic of the FA Cup. It's a magic of cup competitions, isn't it? And like I say, to play in that, first of all, was fantastic. But to get the win on that, extra special.
What were your feelings? Down to 10 and 3 down. What was being said in the dressing room?
My recollection, and other people have got different different viewpoints of it, but not much really. It was just, come on lads, we've got to be better than we was in the first half, which goes without saying. But I think it was one of them. We knew what we couldn't do anymore, and that was kind of just give in and throw the towel in, because it could have been 5-6, the way we was playing. And I think it's shown a little bit of courage, a little bit of battling in what we was about as a team at that time. And I'd be lying if I said we thought we was going to come out and win the game, because we didn't. We just tried to maybe not concede anymore, and maybe nick a goal. But fortunately we managed to get the win.
Well, let's bring it back to the present day, and Newcastle are facing not quite as big a deficit, and they'll have 11 men. What kind of tie are you expecting tonight?
Do you know what? I think I think we're all hoping for a real good game, real good semi-final classic game. I think it's going to be tough. Newcastle are a really good team, especially the way they can counter-attack really quickly. But I think City will have too much to them. I really do. I know sometimes results haven't been great, like the Tottenham game, but I think player-wise, performance-wise, I think it's been up there. I think I've been really impressed with some performances and individual performances as well.
What do you think Eddie Howe's saying to his team in terms of the deficit?
Win. Listen, I think he's just got to go out, and he's. They can't kind of sit back, like a lot of teams do when they come here, which I don't expect Newcastle to do. I don't think they will do that, but I don't think he'll be that kind of tactics. Sit back and let's try and nick one and then get another one. I think he'll go for it, which puts it out there for an exciting game. But if teams do that opens space for City, and the players that they've got can really exploit them areas. And I think if City get an early goal, I think they'll be all right.
You are a manager yourself. Tell us about how that's going for you, and what is it like to go from player to manager and then to actually give out the instructions rather than take them?
We're going okay. We're doing all right. I think we're fifth at the minute. We're in the mix, for the playoffs. So I think we've got 15, 16 games left. We've just got to stay there. We've got to turn defeats into draws and draws into wins at the moment, and every game is like a cup competition now. It's every game's a must win for us. So it's going to be a tough running, but I believe we're more than capable. And being a manager for me, it can be frustrating at times. It can be one of them where you just want to get your message across as best you possibly can, and sometimes it doesn't translate that well, but it can be challenging, but it's so enjoyable, and it's so rewarding when you get it right in certain games and certain occasions, and you see the progression of not just players but the football club as a whole. It's really rewarding, and it's something I've really enjoyed over these past 4 or 5 years.
Well, I don't know if your teammates ever thought that you'd become a manager, but there are two of them up in our studio today, in Nicky and David. Have you got a message for them too up in the gods?
Just nice to see them, nice to see them here. It's been a while since I come back, so it's nice. I think Jamo had a stint as manager as well, didn't he, at one point? So, no, good, and I hope they enjoy the game.
Always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thank
the thoughts there of former City striker John Macken. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Alistair. Great to have John Macken on, of course, scoring that all-important winner in that 4-3 win after being 3-0 down against Spurs. 22 years to the day. I always think two things about that game to show how far we've come. At the end of that season, we brought out a DVD of that game, and because that was the highlight of our yeah, exactly, a DVD. But I remember as well, my dad had gone to, it was a school night, and my dad had gone to bed. My dad came and woke me up and said, I think something pretty magic's going to happen in this game. Of course, weren't in that game, but two former teammates there. This is what I found quite interesting. The iconic game, David, where you were brought on as a striker.
Yes.
You came on, it was Nicky Weaver went in net. Yep. You got front, John Macken, who I think we'd recently signed for quite a lot of money, stayed on the bench. So I can only imagine what his thoughts were when he saw that. Was there any chat from the bench there? Any shouts? Any of that? Do you want to give me a shout?
The first thing, I remember being sat there and Tim Flowers, the goalkeeper coach, went, "We's warm up going on in a minute." And I'm like, what? What's going on? And I'm thinking, it's a really important game. So if we won, went to Europe, if we drew, Middlesbrough into Europe. So it went like a nothing game, I'm thinking. And then I went for a little run and I thought, what's going on? They called me back. And then the next day I saw Les Chapman, the kit man, pull out the outfield James 1. And then the cogs started, I'm thinking, I'm like, no, you're going on, get ready. So I'm like, doing my shin pads now, gloves on, right. Number 4 went up, Claudio Reyna comes off. But it almost looked like Jamo was coming off because you had to run over and change shirt. Yeah. I was sat next to John Macken on the bench and he's thinking like, is this really happening?
Whereas I was in the zone.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, what is Nicky Weaver? What have I done wrong? I know Jimmy scored a free kick from 500 yards, but I thought, what have I done wrong? Because I didn't even see him doing a warm-up. And so when I ran over, it was kind of like, oh, so here's your shirt.
Did you know? You must have known before.
No.
So you only knew when you got to the sideline that you were staying on?
At half-time, Chappie, the kit man, went, I've got your shirt ready. And I'm going, what are you on about? And he went, I've got your shirt done. And I'm like, Chappie, shut up. Got a game to play. So I was literally in the zone. It was like, what?
I remember Steve Wigley, who was assistant manager of Stuart Pearce at the time, telling me afterwards, he went, came to the day before, Stuart Pearce manager said, I've got this plan. And Wiggs, you can't do it. You cannot do it. So he sort of dismissed it, I think. And then Pearce had obviously gone and seen Les Chapman, the kit man, to get the shirt. And do you know what? I mean, you probably get asked about it a lot. I do. It was my girlfriend's first ever game of football she'd ever been to. And afterwards she went, does that happen very often? I said, you'll never see it again in the rest of it. But it was quite a comical sort of moment, but it nearly worked. And we got a penalty. Worked. I mean, there was Hugo Ekiog, Wes Sim and Gareth Southgate were the centre halves, weren't they?
I fouled all of them.
You caused havoc, didn't you?
Yeah, I think the only one who probably didn't get fouled was Mark Schwarzer. Yeah. But had Piercy thought about this 2 nights before? he might have told me the last
I got
day
your shorts
so I could
as
do
well.
a bit of training.
Just something, yeah. Could have almost pulled out a moment like the
And
keeper.
we did get the penalty, didn't we, in like 4th minute of injury time, and Mark Schwartzman had a brilliant save off Robbie Fowler. So it's talked about, and we're having a laugh about it now, and it's nearly 21 years ago now, I think. I think it was 2005.
22, yeah. Oh, no, sorry, no, 21 was the year before, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, and it was nearly a masterstroke.
And do you know what Robbie Fowler's takeaway from that is?
Go on.
Had he scored, City would never have been bought.
Well, because we'd have actually carried on. Oh, yeah.
And we wouldn't be sat here now.
Mad.
So we've got Robbie to thank for it.
There you go. And Mark Schwarzer as well.
Or you.
Or
you.
Everyone. Everything happens for a reason, Manchester. Also, in our studio opposite, which is where there is no live broadcasting going on, Shay Given's in there, so it's all about the goalkeepers this evening. I wanted to begin with, of course, the goalkeeper tonight, James Trafford. For me, was unbelievable in the Championship. I think he had, got the Golden Glove, most clean sheets. In fact, he hardly had any goals scored against him.
16.
Thank you, Mr. David James, with the stats as always. Just how good is James Trafford? And obviously, we know he's been unlucky with the Donnarumma signing, which must also have been difficult.
I first saw him when I was working at Sheffield Wednesday, and he was on loan at Bolton. And I was, from the first 10 minutes of seeing him, I was really impressed with him. He's got everything. He's long, he's lean, he's agile, he can take crosses, he's decent with his feet. So he really has got the lot. Then obviously, he went to Burnley, and it was unbelievable last year. I mean, we're seeing some saves on the screen here. And he made some really big saves at big times. And then he got a great move back to City where it all started for him. And he must have thought he's coming here, probably knew that Edison was going to go. And then they obviously got the opportunity to sign Donnarumma, which you just can't turn down. And it reminds me of when I was here. And I was number 2 to Jamo. Jamo was miles better than me, so I knew I was never going to play. And it must be really difficult for James Trafford, because he pretty much knows that while ever Donnarumma's here and he's fit, unless there's a real dip in form, which you just don't see, that he's just not going to be able to move him out of the team.
How do you manage that?
I think it's different because, listen, you don't know what he was told when he came.
Yeah.
But also, a bit like when I was sort of more than happy to sit on the bench for Jamo, because I just knew if Jamo was at your football club at that particular time, he was playing for England, I weren't good enough to get in front of Jamo, and that was almost... So I would, it is what it is. And I'd had some injury problems and what have you before, but I also, when people ask me about who's the best goalkeeper I ever played with, I had Peter Schmeichel, Kasper Schmeichel, Joe Hart, David Seaman, and obviously Jamo. And I always say Jamo because he's the only one I ever actually shared a field to play with.
Yeah.
So there you go, James.
Lovely. There you go, David.
It's been a really good evening.
But with Trafford as well, obviously, we know he beat the World Cup as well. His performances at Burnley, he obviously plays in our cup competitions, still has the opportunity to hopefully be on that plane. Do you think there is a chance?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to look at the competition, haven't you?
Yeah.
Obviously, Jordan Pickford is head and shoulders above anyone else as regards to England's number 1 at the moment.
Of course.
You've got Henderson at Palace.
Ramsdale.
Big Nick.
Pope.
Yeah.
Ramsdale.
Yeah.
And then Trafford. So, I mean, Nick Pope, as much as I love a lot of what he does, and I think the Newcastle team suits Nick Pope, I don't think he suits the England setup as well. And therefore, someone like James playing in Man City's side might be saying, well, actually, I could go ahead of Nick Pope in one respect. Ramsdale behind Nick Pope would mean that you don't think both of them would go. So I think James has got a great opportunity. I agree with what Nick's saying there. Donnarumma will be the number 1.
Yeah.
However, there's more than just this year, this season, this World Cup for someone like James Trafford.
Yes, yeah.
I made my World Cup actual debut at 39. So he's got another 17, 18 years to sort of worry about maybe making a debut for England in a World Cup, you could argue. But there's a drive that wants to do something, but at the same time there's a realism of when this might be achieved. If he gets in the squad, that's a bonus. If, as Nicky was talking about with Donnarumma, things transpire during the World Cup finals, he gets to play even better. But the long-term picture would be, do you know what, I could take this City position in a year or two's time, irrespective of how good Donnarumma is.
I genuinely believe that if he gets, whether it's here or elsewhere, he gets a run in a good Premier League team, he could challenge Jordan Pickford.
I agree.
Jordan Pickford's not going to be there forever.
Yes.
And he's been brilliant for England.
Yes.
And Everton, I'm a big fan of his. But I think the potential that James Trafford's got, he just needs that run of games now.
I agree. I think James Trafford will be England's number one at some point.
He's just in a really, really difficult situation at the minute for him.
What we didn't see in the highlights there was the save he made in the first leg. The tip route.
Yeah.
It was a tremendous save. And in a game where he wasn't overly extended, he was alert and he'd done all the things that an England goalkeeper would need to do. If he can replicate that form tonight, probably play in the final.
Yes.
And do well in the final. You've got the FA Cup and other competitions for him to play in. Then Thomas Tuchel might be looking at it and going, actually, he plays in a team more suited to an England lineup than Jordan Pickford does at Everton. I'll give him a couple of games, or I'll give him a little look out in the tournament. There's no reason why he can't ask Thomas Tuchel the question.
And good run in the FA Cup. Could get some good if you get to the final there, for example. Get to the final here, so there is games for him. Not as many as he'd like, and he won't be able to get that rhythm, and it is difficult. But he's got enough time to prove his worth in the squad.
He can do that on the big stage as well. And we can go from from England international chat here to another England international goalkeeper. Here is one of our own, Joe Hart.
I was joking. I had to just Google and check how many League Cups you'd won before we came on. But it's 2 League Cups, so I'm sure this trophy, this competition is one that is special to you.
Oh yeah, really special. And in a season like this, you just feel it's really important to get that first kind of medal, that first trophy on the board. I know we got very used to winning it very regularly. A little patch without it, so it'll be nice to have it on the 2026 Cup winners.
I mean, from a team and a squad perspective, Joe, winning that first trophy early in the season must build the confidence, build the momentum. It kind of sets the tone for the end of the season, doesn't it, or the run to the end of the season?
It really does, and it's one of those, especially with the squads now, with the strength in depth and people probably not getting the game time that they want. It gives people great opportunity to feel important. The 2 that I won, actually, it was Costel Pantilimon and Willy Caballero, who were exceptional and played so well in the finals to win them. So, look, it's a squad effort, and it's a great opportunity, like I say, like it is tonight.
So it's 2-0 as it stands for City. What do you think the game plan's going to be tonight? Because it's not like us, and it's certainly not like Pep to sit back and defend ever. So what are you expecting from this team?
No, they're going to want to dominate. Of course they are. Build into the game. Obviously, no, you don't have to take too many risks, do you? But you want to play on Newcastle's cat and mouse that I'm sure they're going to look to do tonight. They're going to try and stay in the game for as long as they can and look to nick a goal. But I think Manchester City should look to dominate, build on it. Once they score that first goal, it'll be very difficult for Newcastle.
And we've got to ask you a goalkeeping question, of course, so I'm going to ask you 2 in 1. I mean, of course, Gigio Donnarumma has come in and done an amazing job. Looks like he's played for the club all his life. So give us your verdict thus far on Gigio Donnarumma. And also, James Trafford, of course, not as the kind of opportunities maybe he was hoping, but how difficult is it for a keeper coming in when you've not really played too much to kind of be as sharp as you need to be to play in games like this?
On your first bit about Donnarumma, I've always loved him as a goalkeeper. I played against him in Serie A. I always knew his story, playing right from 16 for a team like AC Milan. That's not an easy thing to do. And he was in on merit. They picked him because he was the best goalkeeper at AC Milan. So much experience. His performances to win the Champions League last year were unbelievable. Well, he's a top goalie. Seems like a brilliant guy, great character to have around. Like you say, he looks like he's really settled in. And on James, look, no getting away from him, it would have been difficult. He came back to the club. He's such a confident top goalkeeper. We really saw him grow at Burnley, especially last season in the Championship. Deserved his move. And look, he's only going to see, it doesn't matter whether you don't play every week. When you get the opportunity, he'll be on it tonight. He's a brilliant character, top young goalkeeper, and it's a huge opportunity.
Sure, he'll be wanting to keep that all-important clean sheet. Joe Hart there, great to have him on the show. Final moments here before the teams come out, and this very beautiful operatic version of Blue Moon being sung on the pitch. We love that. Starting 11 is on the bottom of your screen. James Trafford, Nunez, Kusanov, Ake, Ait-Nouri, Gonzalez, Reinders, Nico O'Reilly in the middle. And then our forward three of Semenyo, Phil Foden and Omar Mamouche. Big news as well in that Ruben Diaz is back in the squad, and Nippon comes back on loan from Middlesbrough straight into the squad. Nicky Weaver and David James have been in the studio. We're going to be back at half-time and full-time. On our poll on YouTube, You guys want goals. We've been asking you how many goals you think might be in the game tonight. 52% of you have gone for 2+, so goals. But David, it's not going to be all that easy. Obviously, we come into it 2-0 up on aggregate. Newcastle are going to want to try and obviously get into the next round. What would you like to see from the boys?
I think if Eddie Howe's pre-match claim is right and they're going to go for it early, is just to, quite literally just stop Newcastle from getting what they want from the beginning and then just get back into a rhythm and score loads of goals. I think there'll be more than 3 goals.
Ooh, okay. Well, save your prediction. Quite late, yeah. Thank you, though. Just teasing. You mentioned it, though, Nicky, and I think it's a great point. City do keep this clean sheet. City are through.
Yeah, and also, we've not mentioned the firepower we've got on the bench with Cherky and Haaland.
Yes.
I mean, if we need them at half-time after 60 minutes, that'd be the last thing the Newcastle defenders want to see. So, but let's not be talking about VAR. Let's not have any nail biting. Let's go out. Nice early goal first half. Nice early goal second half. Enjoy the last 40 minutes of the game, and we're at Wembley.
I think as well, Cherky has scored in every round of the games so far of the EFL this season, so that's a good omen as well, should we need it. Okay, Newcastle are there lining up. Manchester City players will be making their way in just a second. Gosh, they do look a big team, Newcastle. Let's get our score predictions then. David, what are we thinking then, sir? Give me the good news.
I'm going to go 3-1 City.
3-1. Nicky Weaver?
2-1 City.
Lovely stuff. I've really loved the show. Thank you, Nicky. Thank you, David. Remember, we'll be back at half-time, then at full-time. It has been jam-packed just how we like it. And now, let's hope tonight it is jam-packed with goals. It's second leg of our Carabao Cup tie. A win today and a clean sheet, as Nicky Weaver pointed out, will mean another final awaits. Let's see how we get on. I'll see you at half-time.